Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to another episode of Transfer Talk. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a report from Football.London about what Daniel Levy wants from the transfer window ahead. So before I get started in the video, if you want more transfer content like this over the next month and then a lot more when the season begins, subscribe to the channel down below. It's completely free and please like this video. So Football.London are reporting this morning that Daniel Levy wants to make 4 signings for the rest of this transfer window with the possibility of a 5th. Now, those 4 signings are Dani Ceballos, Giovanni Lo Celso, and Ryan and Steven Sessegnon. These are players obviously we've been linked to a lot, and they're deals that we expected might progress, not particularly come through, but we imagined they would be deals that would be looked into a lot by the club. Now, the latest on Dani Ceballos, Sky Sports also this morning have said that the two clubs are in talks over a deal for Ceballos. It's Tottenham and Real Madrid. But the deal is really complicated for a number of reasons. Now, the first reason is that Dani Ceballos would rather not leave Real Madrid, and that's something that, again, he said a couple of weeks ago, that he does want to make his name in the Real Madrid team, and he wants to work as hard as he can to break into that squad. But he did say if ultimately he's not going to do that, he will have to make the decision to leave the club. So for that reason, Sky Sports are expecting that if a deal does go through this summer, it will be a loan deal with an option to buy, with Dani Ceballos heavily involved in that decision if it does come to that next season or the year after, depending how long the loan deal is. Another factor of that is that Dani Ceballos has a really high release clause in his contract, and this is something that Spanish clubs do quite a lot when they bring players in, specifically players that may have a long-term future at the club, which when Ceballos was brought in, that's what he was. He was a young, exciting player that was maybe a future Galactico for them. So the fact that he has a really high release clause that gives Real Madrid all of the power in any negotiations, it's down to Tottenham to meet whatever valuation of the player that Real Madrid have, which isn't ideal for us, obviously, with Daniel Levy. He doesn't like to not overpay, but he doesn't like to pay the market value for players. He does the best he can to pay as little as possible. And the third factor is that Ceballos has 4 years left on his deal at Real Madrid, which again is just going to drive the price up. They're obviously in no hurry to sell if he doesn't want to sign a contract. They're not in a position where they have to, give him what he wants in order to cut their losses and potentially him leaving for free. It's not going to happen. So I always said this is the deal I'd love to see get over the line, because Ceballos, he's a similar player to Eriksen, but the same as Lo Celso, he has pace, which is, I think, like that last season at White Hart Lane when we had that really good counter-attacking flow, which ripped teams apart regularly, that we kind of lost when we made that move to Wembley. And not only because we lost Kyle Walker, but like obviously he's such a quick player, he's a big part of that, but that move to Wembley, it's a much bigger pitch, and like it mightn't seem like it when you're looking at these professional footballers who, run 10, 11, 12 kilometres every Saturday and then do it again on a Wednesday. But the size difference, White Hart Lane was one of the smaller pitches in the league and Wembley was probably the biggest. And I know there's not a massive discrepancy between the size because there are certain regulations that have to be met, but there was a difference there. And that did affect our style of play. And like when we went into Wembley at the start, we kind of had poor form there and people were blaming the Wembley hoodoo, but it was the pitch that was a massive part of that, because our style of play was so demanding in terms of fitness and stuff like that, because we had the counter attack and we had the high press that it was just really hard for the players to get used to, and we never really got that counter attacking back into our play. So if we get players like Ceballos and Lo Celso in, it will add that feature back in. And I know to say towards the end of last season, Son and Lucas kind of start to bring that in again, but when there's not a whole team around them that that's not a primary feature of their play, it's hard for them to kind of do that on their own. Of course they did do it at times. Remember that Son going against Chelsea at Wembley. But I think it'd be a really good idea to bring in these players who have the same kind of technical aspects to their game as Eriksen. Obviously not as at high a level, but they have the ability to to pick out the passes, to score from long range, to to kind of change play whenever they get the chance, but as well have that added ability to start counterattacks and stuff like that. Now the second player is Giovanni Lo Celso, and again this is another one that's going to be really affected by his release clause. Real Betis signed him from PSG for £19.4 million in April at the end of his loan deal there, but They immediately put an £88 million release clause into his contract. According to the reports, Daniel Levy has no intention to meet that, which is understandable. Other reports are saying Betis will accept a bid in the region of £70 million. That, again, is a lot of money for a young, unproven player. But if it is a player that Pochettino has identified as the ideal, maybe replacement for Ericsson, but maybe just an ideal player for his squad, obviously he has that Argentinian connection. I think Daniel Levy really has to look at that and see, like, you have to look at what Pochettino has achieved. So if he gets these players that he wants, if he gets the money that he needs, there's no telling what he can achieve at the club. Let's also, again, similar to Ceballos, he has that pace, those technical aspects, not as good as Ericsson. Very similar players and very similar reasons why they might be good to bring into the club. So now Sky Sports did report last week that talks between the two clubs had come to an end, and it will be revisited if Christian Eriksen left the club this summer. I think that brings us back into Ceballos, and another report there that if we are to bring Ceballos into the club, part of that deal would see Christian Eriksen go the other way. Now, the latest on Christian Eriksen is that obviously we know that interview he did earlier in the summer. He said he was open to a new challenge. Real Madrid straight away came in with some interest, but that was quickly ended when Zidane said he's not a prime target for him. Paul Pogba is his first choice midfielder. As it stands with Pogba, he's on pre-season with Manchester United. Solskjaer has said he's not going to sell him, but we kind of have to see how that one plays out before we can think if Real Madrid might come back in for Eriksen. Eriksen at the moment is expected to return to pre-season at Hotspur Way on Friday. So at the moment it's looking like he might stay, but I mean that could change as quickly as anything in this transfer window, especially with teams like Real Madrid interested. So I don't know where the Lo Celso deal is at the moment because of that, but if this report from Football.London is to be believed that Levy wants to bring in these four players and Lo Celso is one of them, it's a massive step, and it's a massive statement if we are to potentially break our transfer record twice in a window, and to spend upwards of £130 million on two players it's a massive statement, and it can't be underestimated. And I know some people will be saying it's just Daniel Levy going for one window to try and cover up what his kind of what he did over the last however many years when he was in it purely for the money. But I think it's a turning point now for the club and for Levy that this is actually happening this summer, and there's no doubt that if these deals do come true, there is a team in place there that will challenge for trophies, and that will challenge not just like for the domestic cups, but in the long term, the Premier League and the Champions League. Because what we've suffered from is a lack of squad depth, and when we have injuries come into play towards the end of the season, we've purely just collapsed basically. So when we have these players coming in, and rather than just squad depth, in terms of we have a few youth players who can come off for the bench, we have pure quality in the starting 11, in the bench, and even outside that first 18, there will be quality players that can affect our season. The third and fourth player that we're supposedly interested in signing is Ryan and Steven Sessegnon. Now, Ryan Sessegnon, left back for Fulham, who can play anywhere along the left, 19 years old, and Steven Sessegnon, his twin brother, who plays on the right side of defence but hasn't yet made a professional appearance for Fulham. Sessegnon was a player who really stood out in the Championship a couple of seasons ago for Fulham, and was one of their best players from left back. He showed really good attacking threat. He was solid defensively, and he was a really important part of that team that got them promoted to the Premier League. He struggled a lot in the Premier League last year, but there was a lot of factors around that you can kind of forgive him for it. Like, they had three managers throughout the entire season, and they spent £100 million in the window, which just completely disjointed their team, and there was never any consistency there in terms of style of play or form. So you can't kind of forgive him for that. But the reports at the moment are that Sessegnon will cost Tottenham up to £45 million, with an extra couple of million to bring in Steven Sessegnon. This is a signing I'd like to see happen, but like you'd have to kind of wonder where that leaves Danny Rose at the club, because Ben Davies just signed his new 5-year deal, and there's not really any need to have more than two left backs in. And I know Rose in the past couple of seasons plays a few games in defensive mid and up on the left wing, but with the signings that we're making there as well, with Ndombele, Lo Celso and Ceballos, if they do get over the line, it does look like Danny Rose is going to be leaving the club this summer. And it won't come entirely as a shock, but he did have that interview after the Champions League final when he said there was a decision there to make, and it looks like it's going the way of him leaving the club. Um, it won't be nice to see him go. I mean, he's been a big part for our team for quite a while now, and he's like I know he's had a few dodgy moments with interviews and stuff like that. But when he's on the pitch, he's always given 100% to the team, and he's been a massive part of what Pochettino has built at the club. And Pochettino did say the rebuild was going to be painful, and this could be one of those things now that we're going to look at. And we prefer it didn't happen, but at the end of the day, if this is what Pochettino sees is the best for the club, is best for the squad, and just for his project, his philosophy, if this is what he wants, we have to not agree with it, but we have to just assume it is what's right, it's what's best. So it looks like that will be happening this summer. Now, as for Steven Sessegnon, he played 9 times in the Premier League youth team youth tournament last season, with registering 1 assist. So he hasn't been too effective in their youth team, but he does have some game time under his belt. And if there is a deal that will bring him to the club, it will more than likely see him be loaned straight back out to Fulham, similar to the Jack Clark deal. This is one that I know I'm always saying it, but again, I do want to get over the line, because like they're both really young players, and Ryan Sessegnon, 19 years of age, and the fact that he already has 2 seasons of first team football under his belt, that's absolutely massive. And because he's only 19, and the way Pochettino works with young players, there's the potential for him is it's anything like. He is a very similar player to Danny Rose, left back, a lot of pace, really good attacking intent. So it is a player that straight away you notice will fit into the style of play that we have. And I don't know if £45 million is worth it for him. The club apparently want to pay £25 million, which maybe be more around what you would expect to pay. Like, I know now with Fulham going down, being in the Championship, they might have to drop their price a bit, because obviously they're not a Premier League club anymore. They can't demand as much money from the big teams. But I mean, it's big that apparently Daniel Levy wants to get these 4 deals over the line. It's exciting. We have a month left now. Pochettino did want to get all of his deals done by the 8th of July, which was Monday, when the club returned to pre-season. But obviously that hasn't happened. But I think, even though he said that mightn't have been final, like it might have been a way to try and force Daniel Levy into making those deals completed a lot earlier. But I think for Pochettino, like pre-season training now, there's not a lot of players are back. The players who've been off on international duty, like Lo Celso and Ceballos, aren't back yet. So I think once they're in before the pre-season tournament, I think that's starting on the 21st of July, obviously flying out a few days before that. So I think if they're in by then, Pochettino won't really have anything to complain about. And that's all for this episode of Transfer Talk. Don't forget to leave down in the comments below which one of these 4 players you would like to see join the club this summer. Please subscribe to the channel as well if you want more transfer content like this for the remainder of the window, and like this video. Thanks for watching.